Good morning, members of council and staff. I'd like to call this meeting of council to order on Wednesday, February 26th. Members of council, if you would like to join me in a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. The region of Durham exists on lands that the Mississauga and Anishinaabeg inhabited for thousands of years prior to European colonization. These lands are the traditional and treaty territories of the nations covered under the Williams Treaties, including the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, Alderville First Nation, Hiawatha First Nation, Curve Lake First Nation, and the Chippewa Nations of Georgina Island, Beausoleil, and Rama. We honor and recognize and respect the Indigenous peoples as the right holders and stewards of the lands and waters on which we have the privilege to live. On our efforts towards reconciliation, we continue to build and strengthen relationships with First Nations as well as our large Métis community and growing Inuit community here in Durham. We commit to learning from Indigenous values, knowledge, building opportunities for collaboration, and recognizing that we're all connected. Members of council, you were all given pink ties or pink bow ties this morning, and thank you to Transit for doing that for us today. Mr. Holmes, thank you. Because today is a significant day in the history of Canada and the world. Pink Shirt Day was started in 2007 in Canada, where it is held on the last Wednesday of February each year. It was then adopted by New Zealand in 2009. But the original story is a story about two brave young men from Nova Scotia who were grade 12 students. Their names were David Shepard and Travers Pierce, and they were both from Berwick, Nova Scotia. And they came and distributed 50 pink shirts after a 9th grade student was bullied for wearing a pink polo on his first day of school at Central Kings Rural High School in Cambridge, Nova Scotia. That year, Nova Scotia Premier Rodney MacDonald proclaimed the second Thursday of September also as a day that is important in our history because it's Stand Up Against Bullying Day. Thank you again for wearing pink today, and bullying's not acceptable in Durham or anywhere else in the world. I'd also have the privilege today and I'm excited because there again, in the center of the room, there is something covered. And if I could get Ian McVeigh and Manny Rajadan to come to the center and grab each side of the tablecloth, but not until I read this out. No, you guys come in. So I'm incredibly excited to announce that the region of Durham has received national recognition for our leadership on climate action, diversity, equity, and inclusion through an FCM Sustainable Communities Award. It is truly interdepartmental, an interdepartment effort co-led by Works Department, Transportation Division, the Sustainable Team at the CAO's office, and Strategic Initiative Divisions, with input from numerous other teams. The region has implemented an innovative flood risk assessment that analyzes existing flood and climate-related data with social equity lens to ensure that the transportation assets and the financial planning considers increasing flood risks and our climate change impacts, while prioritizing infrastructure that supports vulnerable communities and social services. So, without any further ado, could you please lift that tablecloth? And it's just another great example of showing Canada how Durham is leading in so many ways. Mr. Clerk, if you could do a roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronic roll call is starting now.
Okay, we have quorum. Declarations of interest. We have none. Members of council, I want to announce that the region received another award earlier this year. The Family Services Durham is a 2024 local municipal champion. The Family Services Division, FSD, of the Social Services Department has been selected by Ontario Municipal Association Service Association, OMSSA for short, as the recipient of the 2024 Local Municipal Champion Award, which recognizes work that advances excellence in human services integration and service system management. Many of the family services, Durham services, and supports are provided through various collaborations and partnerships that leverage existing expertise and resources to meet the mental health and social care needs of residents in Durham Region. To learn more about this achievement in Family Services Durham's programs, visit Ontario Municipal Social Services Association Knowledge Exchange blog. Members of council, I know we don't clap in the council chambers, but could we give our Family Services Division a round of applause? Okay. Members of council, I'd like to move both sets of minutes, 4.1 and 4.2. I'll need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Lee. On the minutes, seeing no hands, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Next, we have a presentation. It's by Jackie McKinnon, a Dean member of at-large Durham Elder Abuse Network. Now, if you could pull the microphone down towards your mouth, that is perfect. And when you're ready, please start.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Henry and Council. As was just said, I'm Jackie McKinnon, and I'm here today representing the Durham Elder Abuse Network, affectionately known as DEAN. I'm here to speak to you about the upcoming World Elder Abuse Awareness Day event that DEAN and the region are co-hosting Friday, June 13th, here at regional headquarters. Okay. Let me begin with introducing DEAN to those of you who may not be aware of the network. DEAN was established in the late 1990s. Its mission is to improve the lives of older adults in Durham Region using the strength of cross-sector expertise working together in collaboration. As you can see from the slide, there are a number of actions that DEAN participates in. DEAN facilitates coordination between its diverse membership of 30-plus agencies and individuals to come up with responses to meeting the unique and complicated needs of older adults whose situations are brought to the table, not just the table once at a meeting, but even between meetings. They provide elder abuse education and awareness events throughout the region. They have a secret Santa program for seniors where they raise funds and visit seniors at Christmas time with a plethora of gifts. When we can afford it, we publish a safety calendar with tips and resources for seniors, and we also provide emergency financial support to seniors. Annually, we formally acknowledge people in the community who do excellent work in services to seniors, and we do that with the Tammy Rankin Legacy Award program. Tammy is a past employee of the of Durham Region who actually passed away. In addition to issues such as poverty, lack of housing, and medical care, The majority of older adult Dean members' agency supports are experiencing some form of elder abuse. According to research through the Department of Justice Canada 2023, about 45% of seniors reported experiencing some form of abuse from the age of 65 on. Other data that we have access to lowers that age to 55, and the results are similar. What you may not be aware of is that despite years of attention to the issue, incidences are not decreasing. According to the World Health Organization 2023, incidences are on the rise, and we see this in our own Durham community. A look at the published literature, substantiated by the number and severity of cases that cross the desks of those working with older adults here in Durham Region, seniors in our communities continue to experience abuse at unprecedented rates. This includes psychological abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, which includes denying medication or medical treatment, lack of personal care, and restriction to beds, etc. They experience financial abuse, including such things as misappropriation of funds, theft, fraud, etc. Systemic abuse, which is just another name for abuse that occurs in a facility or institution, and predominantly, in the case of women, murder. An annual femicide report, which femicide is the label for murder of a woman by an intimate partner or other male in their lives. A report by the OATH, which is the Ontario Association for Interval and Transition Houses, reports that between November 26, 2023 to November 25, 2024, so 1 year, 52 women are known to have been murdered in Ontario by the men in their lives. OATH states that this is likely a gross underestimation, since cases under investigation and not yet officially confirmed as femicides by the deadline are not included in this number. So, I've just said that the number of women killed in Ontario by men in their lives in that year was 52. The percentage of women whose age was known, the percentage of women whose age was known who were age 55 plus was 42%. The percentage of those age 55 plus who were murdered by their sons, stepsons, or grandsons was 67%. That astounded me when I first heard it, but it has been replicated in other areas across the province and across Canada that elderly women are more at risk from their sons, stepsons, or grandsons. So let's move on to World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It was launched June 15th, 2006, as an official United Nations International Day acknowledging the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. The purpose is to provide an opportunity for communities around the world to together promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older persons by raising awareness and encouraging action to support their rights to live a life free from fear and violence. So, in previous years, Durham Region has been gracious enough to work with Dean recognizing WEAD, which is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, with a proclamation and annual flag raising here at headquarters. In addition, some of the local municipalities have taken part in the event, reading proclamations of their own. Still others have held their own events in their own municipalities or city or town. Once again this year, we will be raising the World Elder Abuse Awareness flag here, right outside this building. We, the Durham Elder Abuse Network, are presenting a friendly challenge to you, Chair Henry, and to the rest of the mayors and council. Mayor Collier, Mayor Schumer, Mayor Foster, Mayor Carter, Mayor Ash, Mayor Wotton, I apologize if it's wrong, Mayor Barton, and Mayor Rory. as stewards for your specific municipalities and the older adults therein to help make WEAD 2025 the best promoted, the best attended, and the most impactful Elder Abuse Awareness Day ceremony in Durham Region's history. I don't think that that's too big a challenge. And in partnership with Dean, we're asking if you will take it one step past awareness to action. So what we're proposing is, this is the challenge, first step would be for everybody, all Chair Henry and the 8 municipalities, city and town, to sign a proclamation, which Dean will provide if you don't have one of your own, so that we can see, and the community can see, that we have 9 proclamations, a united region. 2, attend the ceremony at the region in person, amping up presence by bringing others. So if possible, bringing lots of others. 3, take a step past awareness to action. What we mean by this is work with Dean to hold an elder abuse education event in your municipality between WEAD 2025 and WEAD 2026. The topic of the event would be helping community members in your areas to identify elder abuse and what they can do if they believe they or another older adult in their community is being abused. The proposed roles for that collaborative action would include things like the municipality or town or city helping or maybe providing or facilitating Dean locating a location for the event that everybody thinks is appropriate, and by having a representative of the municipality, city, or town attend the event, if possible, to reinforce the message that the issue was a serious one for you as well as for Dean. And then, of course, Dean will take part, or will actually do the presentation, and we would be working together on it that day or night. The 4th step would be to broadly promote all of the above on your social media and community engagement platforms. One of the things that we find is that when people come to the flag raising, we're preaching to the converted. They already know what the issue is, they already know about the event, and they come yearly. And what we'd like to do is get new people to come to stand up and support the idea of elder abuse is not okay in Durham Region. What I want to make sure is that I have sort of a PS there. None of this is meant to discourage you as mayors or councillors from having your own events in your own city or town or area, because that would be just the cherry on the top of the sundae in terms of getting everybody out and getting awareness spread further. Whoops. Okay, so I have lost my last slide. There we go. Okay, my very supportive husband asked me last night what this colorful mess is. He was looking over my shoulder. This colorful mess is Dean's vision of our working relationship for this challenge. It's dynamic, it's people attending, the red is the social media and information going out, and the little blackboard things are the presentations. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to just make a diagram that somehow reflects our hope that we can work together in a very dynamic way for this event. As you can see on the side, it's not being held actually June 15th, it's being held June 13th, which is a Friday, flag raising from 10 a.m., followed indoors by proclamations, guest speakers, the Tammy Rankin Legacy Award presentation, and refreshments. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. I am thinking there might be a bit of time. Or you can contact Jennifer Josephson at the email address up on the screen, or Morgan Denby, who works here in the Durham region. So I'm not sure, do we have time for questions?
We have time for questions.
Okay.
So Jackie, before we go to questions, that meeting on June 13th, we'll host it in this council chambers.
Thank you.
We'll go to Mayor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jackie, it is so good to see you again. Jackie, my recollection is you spent a couple of years as the executive director at Bethesda House.
20.
20 years. and you're recently retired.
2 years as of
2 years.
January.
I hope you don't take it as an insult, but I would suggest you're a failed retiree. So
Definitely.
based on the 20 years, you're well aware of the numbers, particularly around the femicide, elder abuse, because you dealt with those challenges as well. So that comes from, in this case, 22 years worth of history. And am I correct in suggesting watching things get worse?
Absolutely. I worked very closely with all 4 shelters, although I was ED at Bethesda House, and all 4 shelters see a increase in situations where elderly women are coming forward. And it isn't just that we're hearing more about it now, it is actually an increase in new cases and seen, as I say, demonstrated through legitimate research and documentation Ontario-wide, Canada-wide, actually worldwide.
So Jackie, the information that you've given to us in the request for proclamations, are you going directly to the individual municipalities? Will our clerks be seeing something?
We will send out an invitation supporting this challenge with proclamations you can use, or you can use a version of your own. You can make it suit what best fits for you. And the invitation will be put out to actually attend in person. Hopefully that Friday will be convenient for everyone. And if not, if you can't come, perhaps you could send 1 or 2 or 7 representatives from your group.
Okay, so this was a challenge that you made. You're expecting the mayors to make a challenge.
Yes.
Did you see Mayor Carter glaring at me earlier? He was. Mayor Carter, challenge accepted. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Both of you actually do flag raisings. I know that, and that's why I wanted to point out that we are certainly not discouraging things like that, because that complements, supplements what we're trying to do for the larger region, and we greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
So no fist fights over.
Mayor Schumer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you, and thank you very much for coming out. And it's unfortunate that you have to come out and speak to this. Mayor Foster asked some of the items that I was going to, but I did have one other question, and that is, if one of our local municipalities wants to do a flag raising as well, will you be able to provide the flag for that?
Yes.
Okay. Will that come out kind of automatically to our municipalities, our clerks, or do you want us to request that?
I think our preference would be to request it once you get the information from us, so that we aren't sending out additional flags to people who may already have them on their own. So that would be, at that time, if you could do that, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for coming out. And unfortunately, you have to come out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wu.
And through the chair, and thank you very much, Jackie, for your ongoing advocacy. Just a question, in a couple of slides, there was the Tammy Rankin Legacy Award. And I can remember watching, and back in the days when we had community TV and Rogers Cable, there was Seniors Talk with now retired Sergeant John Key to get Tammy on there.
Yes.
Now, you speak about broadly promoting all the above social media and community. What other ways do you have pop-ups, like in shopping malls or shopping centers, that you promote this?
We don't. It's a good idea. It's a matter of finding the volunteers to do that, because the Dean members are all working at their own other jobs as well. But that's a good idea. I'll take it to the meeting.
And getting back, and you mentioned Tammy Rankin, who is a registered social service worker working for the region of Durham. In the elder abuse, you mentioned the name Morgan. Is that the person that's replaced or holding on to that position?
In, uh, in a way, the whole system works differently now than when Tammy was here, so that one position isn't really in place anymore, but it's been replaced by a new system, and Morgan is a woman who works here in this building, and she is part of the team of family services that actually specify or specifically works with older adults in the community who call in and ask for support and education on the issues, etc. She's a
Okay.
fabulous support if anybody needs to connect with her here.
Yeah, I look at this in relation to, even as the chair promoted Pink Shirt Day and anti-bullying, and I think you look around at my colleagues, staff, and I think those that are watching that, whether it be Pink Shirt Day, anti-bullying, or this, I think you'll see, or would you agree that this council will not stand for what is happening in this world?
I have worked and lived in Durham Region for a long time, and I have great respect for the accomplishments of what you all have done, both as a group and individually. And I am hoping that everybody accepts this challenge just the way that you accept other challenges, perhaps not formally presented, but that you come across in your day-to-day work, and support Dean in this issue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Jackie, thank you very much. That exhausts the list of questions. So I think the challenge has been accepted, so we'll have to see what happens. So
Okay.
I'm looking forward to that date.
Thank you very much.
Members of council, we'll move on. There are no delegations. There is a communications item, 7.1. It comes from the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair, and we need to appoint it's a motion to appoint a member to the fair board. Now, sorry, we'll go to Councillor Chapman.
Yes, I would move Councillor Pickles, and I know my good friend Mayor Carter will second that.
Okay. Thank you. So it's moved and seconded. Councillor Pickles, you'll accept. Is there any other members that would wish to put somebody forth? And seeing none, Councillor Chapman, motion to close nominations. Seconded by Mayor Carter. Nominations are now closed. You, Councillor Pickles, you've accepted, so thank you from council and for taking on another job. So thank you. Members of council, we'll now move on to, oh, sorry, we should vote on that. Thank you. He's been acclaimed. So it's kind of like he's been acclaimed, but all those in favor? Anybody that doesn't want to see Council Pickles in this role? Seeing none, congratulations. There are no delegations, so there are no reports. There are no finance items. There are no health and social service items. There are no community growth and economic development items. Works on page 52 of your agenda. So moved by Councillor Maren Pietri. Can I have a second member of Works, Councillor McCaughey? That the recommendations contained in items 1 and 2, inclusive of report number 2 of the Works Committee, be adopted. Poll. Online, Mr. Clerk? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to Committee of the Whole. Looking for a mover, Councillor Shahid. Second by Mayor Carter. That the recommendations contained in items 1 to 5, inclusive of report number 2 of the Committee of the Whole, be adopted. Polls. Councillor Leahy.
Thank you, Chair. Just pulling item 4 just to adjust some of the wording as the recommendation from the Clerk's Department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wu.
Item 3.
Okay, are there any other polls? On the remainder, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. Councillor Wu, could you push your microphone button, please? Okay, on item number 3, Councillor Wu.
Yeah, thank you. And speaking to the report, this is the municipal, oh, I gotta get this. Sorry about that. The municipal diversity plan. And on page 5 of 8 of that, where they're looking for application process and selection criteria, apparently striking a committee, and it does list the 7 Durham Regional Chair, Designate Regional Clerk, Designate Commissioner of Finance, Designate Commissioner of Social Services, or Designate member of the Durham Local Immigration Partnership, Chair of the Durham Region Anti-Racism Task Force, and a senior representative. Could I suggest an amendment to add another, that the executive director of the Police Services Board be on that? Or is there a reason why that person can't be a member of that committee?
Yeah, I'll go to our CAO.
The intent of this committee is for the region as a government to nominate individuals to sit on the Police Services Board. So it would not be appropriate for staff of that board to be advising on who sits in it. I think there's a bit of a conflict in there, and I'm looking to my solicitor here who is agreeing with me. So that's the intent of the structure the way it's recommended.
Okay. Now, again, as a follow-up to that, my thought on that is somebody that could advise, especially when we're looking at the Community Safety and Policing Act, the new act, that this person could explain the nuances to adequate and effective policing, which sort of is, it's wrapped around that.
Again, we can have advisors with the committee, including our solicitor, who would be well-versed in the Policing Act, but a staff member of the police board sitting on this committee would be a conflict. That being said, members of DRPS and the DRPS board are more than welcome to encourage community and other members to apply for a position on the board that would be reviewed by this committee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So on any other people, any other member of council wishing to speak on number 3? Online, I see none. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. On item number 4, a motion regarding protecting Canadian values, ban the Nazi swastika in Canada. Councillor Leahy.
Mr. Chair. So clerks worked out, they wanted to add some slight wording to better reflect what was in the motion. So if they could put on the screen, just speaking to an exception for certain education.
This is amendment? Yes. So this is an amendment, Councillor Leahy? So
Yes.
you'll need a seconder.
Sure.
Councillor Yamada, okay. Now the amendment is on the floor. Go ahead, please.
Perfect, thank you. So just as spoken by staff, just to speak to it, so that with the exceptions for certain educational and artistic purposes, to more accurately reflect the B'nai B'rith motion. So that's it, otherwise just some housekeeping. Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, you're good, Councillor Yamada? Okay. So having no other speakers on the amendment, I'll call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Okay. Now we'll call the vote on the item as amended. A recorded vote by Councillor Leahy. Oh, sorry, before we do that, Mayor Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So somewhat distinct from this, a number of years ago, we had issues with the Confederate flag, for example, and other symbols of hate. Is one of our committees going to be looking at this? So I know I know there are issues with freedom of speech. In Clarington, we had issues again with taking down Confederate flags. Because of that, we'll be getting some advice to more broadly recognize, again, hateful symbols that have no place in our community. And if not everywhere, do we have the ability to do things municipally on municipal properties or on regional property?
Okay, I'll go to our CAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Alison Hector Alexander is away this week, but I will certainly raise that with her, and I think it very definitely is an issue that should and will be discussed by the Durham Region Anti-Racism Task Force. And I can commit to getting back to all mayors with timing of those discussions. With respect to municipal property, yes, I think each municipality can take action, and I'm just going to ask our solicitor, Jason Hunt, to comment on that, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the question. So on the municipal bans, we're currently doing research to see throughout North America if there's been municipalities which have successfully controlled signage on their property. So that's a bit of a separate issue from the motion which purports to, in effect, criminalize certain forms of hate speech. On the second question of expanding that category to include not just anti-Semitic, but perhaps other, hate speech type of expressions, I will say that we've also done research on that, and probably the leader in that is Germany, which has had for decades the criminalization of these types of hate speech, and that legislation is not specific at all to things. It wouldn't mention things like the Confederate flag or Nazi symbolism. It simply says anything which fits into this category, and it leaves it to the courts to deal with specific issues. So things like determining between the use of a swastika as Nazi propaganda and the use of that same symbol for religious purposes, that is left to the courts. It's not generally included in the legislation.
Thank you. So it's apparently you're already working on that. I'm appreciative of that. I do not want to diminish, so my comments are not meant to diminish, anti-Semitic symbolism or anti-Jew symbolism, but we have a broader problem that we need to deal with as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Carter.
Just to pick up on Mr. Hunt's point, Mr. Hunt, thank you for raising that up. There was a great piece on 60 Minutes on Sunday in regards to Germany's step, and it has a wide-ranging effect in regards to how serious they take it, including on social media. So if members of council get an opportunity to be able to view that, I would suggest that it is quite aggressive, but they take it quite seriously. So Mr. Hunt, thank you for highlighting that. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. Would it be possible for the clerks to find that link for that event? And okay, so we'll have the clerks try to find the link and send it to all members of council. Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this item? Okay, so a recorded vote was called on this item, Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the motion as amended is starting now.
Should we do Mayor Carter's motion now? So two-thirds, this is from the Okay, that carries unanimously. So now we'll move on to, just before we get to departmental reports and other resolutions. Mayor Carter, you had sent an item to the clerk. So in order to proceed, we need to do a motion to suspend the rules, to add this to the agenda, and then we need a motion to do the item. So you're moving a motion to suspend the rules?
That's correct. Seconded by Council Mayor Mr. Chair.
Yeah, now, Mr. Clerk, did all members of council get this so we know what we're talking about, or should we?
No, we can present it on screen.
Let's pull it up before I call the vote so members of council understand exactly what we're doing. it's, you know, it's lengthy, short notice. Have you got a copy of it in front of you, Mayor Carter? I do. Okay, before we'll do the motion, let's do the motion to alter the agenda, and then we'll read the item in. Okay. All right, on altering the agenda, members of council, we need 2/3, so I need to see everybody's hands up. On altering the agenda, sure, certainly, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the motion to suspend the rules to add a motion without notice is beginning now.
Let me just get the item on the floor. Move it. Come to read it. Okay. All right, so the rules have been suspended. So next step is to move your motion. So you are moving this, seconded by Councillor Marin Pietri. So the item is now on the floor. Mayor Carter?
So, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if you want me to read the whole motion. If not, and members of council, I hope that you get the opportunity to be able to see the therefore. Mr. Chair, as many of you know, we are facing uncertainty in regards to what may or may not happen in regards to tariffs from the United States. I think all of us are speculating and trying to set the best plans forward in regards to addressing it. What I have really concentrated on in regards to what is it locally that we control and what are the things that we could do to be able to support our businesses, employees that may be affected by the tariffs that are being suggested by the President of the United States. At this particular time, we don't know. So what I've tried to look at, and my colleagues on council, is we are looking locally about what are the mechanisms that we have. Mr. Chair, for many weeks now, and including right up until next week, I've been holding a lot of meetings with local businesses to truly understand the effect of tariffs may have on their businesses. What are the things that they have to make decisions in regards to either reinvesting in their businesses here or moving their businesses south of the border? And many of them have also talked about retaliatory tariffs on the United States and what that may look like. So I'm trying to equip myself so that I have a better understanding of exactly what the tariffs might be. What I'm hearing clear and concise is that we need to be able to have local mechanisms to be able to support local businesses and the employees themselves. We don't have a lot of mechanisms at our disposal to be able to support local businesses, but this may be one concept where we can look at if a business, and I've got an example, and the name of that company is called CanFab. And they are looking at expanding their business, but they have a development charge that is coming from the region that could play a significant role in regards to absorbing that impact of making that investment and keeping their operation here in Oshawa, matter of fact, in Durham region. And that is the decision between either staying or moving because of the reason that their profit margin is about 1 cent per item. So imagine 50 cents or 50% or 25% of what that would mean on the 1 cent. This expansion would give them the opportunity to be able to expand their operation to be more efficient, keep local jobs, and having the opportunity. What we're asking in this motion is not to get rid of the development charges. What we're saying is realize the moment that we're in. What can we do locally to support local businesses? Is there a way of deferring those development charges over a 5-year period so they could pay it on a 5-year basis with interest so that the financial impact on them would be less? I know in the great city of Oshawa, we have made significant changes in regards to our industrial and commercial development charges, and this is one of the ways that we are trying to support local business. I understand that all of us are trying to speculate what may or may not happen. We're not really sure the impact that is happening. What I'm trying to focus on locally is what can we do locally to be able to support our businesses and hopefully be part of the solution moving forward. Because we don't have control of the provincial, the federal government. We don't have control over the governors and mayors in the United States, but we do have control what we can do here locally. And I hope that I've given you a little bit of an insight behind the philosophy behind this motion. And I know my counterpart, Councilor Marin Pietri, will probably add more comments to it. Mr. Chair, thank you and good morning, sir.
Good morning, Councillor Marin Pietri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll reserve my comments for the end of the debate. I just want to allow council members to engage in the discussion because I think Mayor Carter indicated quite well the philosophy behind the motion.
So, Councillor, you're speaking to it now, so you've already started, so continue.
No, if you'd like, then I will. Okay. So I think we talk a big game at the region about doing things that benefit our community. We criticize other levels of government quite often. And as I think Mayor Carter indicated, it's well within our control to take a look at measures that will allow us to not only grow business, but retain and essentially position ourselves. As the Chair of Economic and Development Services for the City of Oshawa, we've worked very hard to align a number of our initiatives and incentives with the region of Durham. And unfortunately, being as far ahead of the curve as we are in Oshawa, and I know that other municipalities have done a great deal to do the same, whether throughout the pandemic and beyond, we're faced with an untenable situation here regarding a geopolitical play made by a much larger entity than us. We have to recognize the period that we're in, the need for action, and the reality that we face. I don't think too many people are going to look at us and say, yeah, the province and the federal government need to do X, Y, and Z, and we need to do nothing. I think it's important for us to recognize that times change, and with those times, so too are our habits and I think our actions. And I think in this case, although we would love to see the development charges waived in order to secure and grow local business, land global tenants, and essentially position ourselves as leaders, that's not exactly what's being asked for here. We're asking for a deferral. So anyone that's confusing, the dollars and cents that will be forgone, it will be incorrect. It'll just be collected at a later date and offering the company that's looking to expand, the companies, because this is wide and broad in range that I think obviously offers a benefit to each municipality in the region, their ability to be able to pay the development charges in a way that I think makes sense. I think the average person would understand what we're trying to do here. They would applaud it, and I think that they would expect it, considering you may have a number of the individuals who are looking to activate an initiative of this nature live in your community. And I think we have to start looking at those measures and taking into control, just in conclusion, Mr. Chair, taking into control the actions that we do have within our authority here at the council table. We cannot criticize the provincials or federals governments if we're not willing to align ourselves with the reality that we face. And I think that this motion is just the tip of the iceberg, and it begins the process of us understanding what kind of world we're dealing with and what kind of actions we need to take. So on behalf of the mover, myself, and I hope that other municipalities that are interested in the kind of economic development that I know that you're working hard to attain, I do hope that we gain support for the motion and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. And I do agree, but for different reasons other than tariffs. I'll speak of Ajax, have approved literally thousands of new units, but very few but very few permits are actually getting pulled. We know developers are struggling. We know that lenders aren't lending, that costs are much higher. I think concrete has tripled in price. It is, and the market really has dried up with regards to condo purchasers. So it is a difficult situation. We only control the permit issuance, so we have to look at other different things that we can do to try and get these to market. And a developer having to come up with millions of DCs at the permit stage takes away a lot of the funds that they need for the actual get the shovels in the ground and get these buildings moving ahead. Especially since these DCs are going to sit in our reserves for sometimes a decade before we're actually going to spend them on the infrastructure that they're being collected for. So what I've done in our town is actually made changes to it. We've done all the investigations, and there is nothing in the Planning Act saying DCs have to be paid at the start. It's just we've always done it that way, so that's the way they always continued to do it until we changed it. We've developed a DC deferral agreement And now we only collect the DCs when the building actually comes out of the ground. So it allows them to do the servicing, the shoring, the foundations, get that to the ground level. And once it goes up at that point, we collect and we secure that through our DC agreement. Now, that being said, we only control our 33% of the DCs collected. We're required to collect 100%, but we only control our, in our case, 33, or is it 35%, because that's our portion of the budget, but we don't control the regional piece. So I think this is good. Thank you for bringing it forward. I would have happily seconded it if you asked me. And I really think we should be looking at ways to do this, because again, we don't need the funds right now. We do need them eventually. We can't eliminate them, but I think that we can do something like this to help get these units that we need moving. Otherwise, we might be waiting for 3, 4, 5 years till market changes. Thank you.
Councillor Leahy?
Thank you, Chair Henry. So again, fully supportive of the motion here, and this is a good example of how we can look at these things for the other development charges when applications become forward. Because we're seeing, at least the ones, number of the developers that I'm hearing from in Whitby, that with the tight market conditions and the inability to get sales through for different develops, industrial, commercial, or residential, that the impact of delaying the payment of development charges can sometimes make the difference between moving forward or delaying investment projects. And I think it's better for us to do whatever we can to support investment now, if that means delaying development charges, like even over 5 years, maybe it's even longer, but to secure the investment now so that the investment goes into, in this example, downtown Oshawa, Whitby, or anywhere across the region. So I think this is a great initiative, something we should be expanding potentially to and spur more investment in other areas across the region, and fully supportive. Thank you.
Mayor Foster?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll express some concern with the lateness of the motion coming forward. So if we look at good governance in terms of transparency, nobody knew that we were discussing this, and until a few moments ago, we didn't know that we were discussing this. So I have some concerns with that. I would ask of staff the impacts on this. So as much as many DCs sit in funds and wait for significant programs, I know in Clarington's case, some of our DC funds are stressed and to move ahead with some of the programs. I'm thinking of pressure on parks and whatnot that the province has put in our laps. So if I can go to Ms. Taylor for some comments. So I don't disagree. We need to get things rolling, but I would love to hear from Ms. Taylor.
So through the chair, a couple of comments, if I may. Certainly through the CAO's office, we have been asked to look at impacts of tariffs in this example as some of the whereases and how that can assist. One thing I would have you keep in mind from a regional perspective is that some of our services have to go in advance of things that get provided later, so that does have a bearing on our cash flow. That being said, if it's confined to industrial, which isn't a huge component of the funds that are going forward, I would respectfully request a slight amendment that if Council direct staff to report back on the development of the program, not that we're going to analyze why we wouldn't, that's not the message at all. It's that there are statutory requirements with respect to DCs, and so we need to make sure staff doesn't have the authority to approve exactly what you would want to see. So we would like to bring a report to you that lays out the exact recommendations and bylaw amendments that you would need to do in order to do this, and that would give Jason and myself time to make sure that we've covered off all of the things that would need to be included in a full detailed approval of a program. So if you don't mind, that would be my respectful request, would be to refer it to report back on developing the program.
Ms. Taylor, how quickly do you think you could report back to us?
Through the chair, if there is a question of retroactivity, that does buy us a little bit of time. I'm thinking perhaps the April reporting cycle. March would be almost impossible, but we could try for the April reporting cycle, but we will also be looking at the retroactivity and how that applies to how the bylaws are struck. So it may not, I mean, it does matter to people, but that should buy us time with retroactivity.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mayor Foster?
Thank you for that. I'm not going to make that amendment. We'll hear from other people, although I think it is probably best for us to do that. But to the mover, there was some discussion about residential units. Is this focused, and you note industrial, but does this include residential as well, or is it focused on industrial?
So to be absolutely honest, I think that what we're trying to really focus on is really the industrial commercial aspect of it. That's jobs and investment. Keeping jobs here locally, I think, is a really important aspect of it. I mean, I'd love to see it all the way across, but I have to be realistic. What we're trying to do is really make sure that those companies that are now on the verge of thinking either do we stay or go, what do we need to do locally to be able to keep them locally? And that's what our intent is.
Okay, so Mayor Carter, thank you. Mr. Chair, thank you. So at a future time, I think we maybe need to consider, and for the local municipalities as well, more broadly, how we make things more affordable and move it forward. So I would likely support a motion to refer to staff, but I'm going to listen to what my colleagues have to say. Thank you.
Mayor Schumer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. And I also appreciate the thought and motives behind this motion, but I do echo Mayor Foster's concerns about the timing and transparency. To a question to staff, I take it we have a prescribed interest rate that would be charged on this, and what is that rate?
So through the chair, off the top of my head, I cannot recall what's dictated. I think it's a policy that needs to come back to council, which is one of the reasons why we would respectfully request that referral, so that information could be brought as part of a package so that you're aware of what that is.
Okay, thank you. And I'm also not clear 100% on who this is applying to. I mean, the first paragraph speaks simply to installments for regional development charges. It mentions company. And then, of course, the next paragraph speaks to industrial developments being backdated. So I'm kind of concerned on the wording, because I'm not sure really who's all going to be encompassed in this. Some companies, so some so-called companies, may have a property they're operating out of commercial wise, and it may be in the individual's name. It might not be an incorporated company, so I'm not sure how they might be caught or not caught in this. And I guess also a question to staff, because it is mentioned that should the company cease to operate, then this would go on to the property taxes. My question, I guess, to staff would be, in the event a company files for bankruptcy, can we still, after that filing for bankruptcy, can we still move something like a development charge onto the property tax, or does it even matter? Do we still have an equal claim through bankruptcy?
So 2 comments, just to your comment over where this applies. The whereas immediately before specifically says an installment program for industrial development, just so that's clear, and that's all that staff would be comfortable with having a dialogue around. With respect to adding it to the tax roll, DCs do have that status where unpaid development charges can be added to the tax roll, and they are collected in the same manner, which means it gets priority status in the event of a property tax sale. So, but we again would comment on the fulsomeness of that in a report back to give you that comfort in writing.
Okay, I did ask regarding the application of this, because I believe it was Mayor Carter indicated commercial as well. So we've got industrial, we've got commercial, and whatever else might fall in there. I would, of course, be willing to move a motion to amend or refer this to staff, because I think there's quite a few questions here. And like I said, I fully support this, but I'll move to refer to staff.
Mr. Clerk, he spoke to it. Mayor Schumer, you spoke to it. You did ask some.
Sorry, what's the question? Can you move an amendment?
Yeah, can you move it even though he's spoken to the item? Okay, well, okay, your amendment's in order then. So Mayor Schumer, you're referring this back to staff to come back to us for the April council meeting?
As soon as possible, yeah.
Staff has identified, okay. Need a seconder on the referral? Seconded by Councillor Anderson. Okay, the referral's on the floor. Okay, Mr. Clerk, do we vote on the referral? Okay, we'll do the speakers list and then we'll vote on the referral. Okay, Mayor Roy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'm not opposed to what's in front of us. It's like Mayor Foster just shared, the timing and allowing for us to have a review of it would be a great opportunity. I know that recently between the mayors, Mayor Ash, Mayor Collier, myself, and Mayor Foster, the discussion of DCs was one that was presented to us as a panel. And I know that it is conversations that we need to have with not only our staff, but I also think that for the regional staff, it's a good conversation, that a report coming back to us, because it's looking at the risk, but it's also looking at the potential and the possibility of, will there be any impact for the future onto our tax base and to our taxpayers? In light of the conversations and the direction of where DCs may potentially go, and that the aspect that removal of DCs is what we're seeing, and that conversation. And if there's a federal election called, will DCs be removed? So we need to have a better understanding, and I think ultimately an April timeline will be a good time for us to start having it, but I think that there's a lot of understanding of what we are doing. If we can get, like what Ajax just put in, and I believe it was a month ago that they put their changes in, that when we're seeing the actual foundations being put into the ground to start the collection of the DCs, it's a great opportunity. I agree that the amount of money that is being put up front by many developers within our community is one that it's not feasible. And I know that even for our small investments, for some of our small investors who are looking at commercial industrial, that this will be a reprieve for them, for that small business person to build and to grow their businesses, as we're seeing within Whitby. And but I think that's a little bit more information, and I don't think a reprieve of just about a month, 6 weeks is going to hurt anything. But I do think that we do need to be looking at all our options, what we can do locally. And Mayor Carter and I are sitting on the task force for Ontario Big City Mayors. And part of our conversation last week was about what can we do locally? What can we do first? Because the impact of what's happening south of the border, we don't know what's happening south of the border. But I do think that this is a good option for us to look forward.
Okay. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. The beginning of the motion speaks greatly towards the tariffs. Is this to go on assuming the tariffs are on or off? Does it matter at all to the mover of the motion?
Question to the mover.
Is this tariff dependent, for example?
Mayor Carter, can you push your button, please? Perfect.
Request.
Thank you.
There you go. To be absolutely honest, Mr. Chair, from all indications, we are going to be a fish on a hook for a period of time. My understanding is that the president will continue to chum the waters and continue to negotiate with the federal government. I'm being honest here. And so I think this is going to linger for a period of time. So I think it's putting in place something that we're ready to implement so that we could be reactionary. To be absolutely honest, Mr. Chair, I take full responsibility. I should have brought this forward in January.
Okay, thank you.
And just a further question. So the paragraph on the top of the page right now speaks to development charges with interest, but if the company cease that the regional development charges be added to the property tax bill, would the interest also be added to the property tax bill, or just the initial development charges that are deferred or divided?
Through the chair, it would be the full amount owing, because that interest would have been lost revenue from the municipality's perspective. And keep in mind that, again, a lot of our capital projects have to be in place in advance of some development. So it would be the entirety of what would be owing based on, so each of these would need an agreement And that's one of the issues that the solicitor and I would work towards. And that agreement, a template agreement, would include all of these various terms and provisions, so there would be clarity.
All right, thank you for that. From a procedure point of view then, if Mayor Schumer's deferral fails for whatever reason, is there still an opportunity to add the staff report in conjunction with this? You know, Councilor Marinpiapchi is saying that there's a time element to this, and we should be cognizant of that. But also, I'm also of the mind that we should be getting a report on this as well for, you know, future discussion. So is there a way to split the baby, so to speak, and do both? Like if Mayor Schumer's referral fails, then will there be an opportunity to add the amendment to do the report afterwards? Or would that be a reconsideration?
I'll have the clerk comment.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, if the referral motion fails, there will still be an opportunity to move amendments to the main motion.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll see how the vote goes. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Shahid?
Thank you, Chair Henry.
Wait a second. There's only one speaker in the council chambers. Councillor Shahid?
Ready?
Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chair Henry. Although I fully support the initiatives that, excuse me, that encourages business growth and strengthening our economy, especially in these uncertain times. But as a regional councillor, we all know that we have the ability and the responsibility to empower businesses and foster economic resilience. Introducing such an installment programs for DC charges is a positive step, but I have some concerns regarding the residential component, as the significant portion of those investments directly benefits the community by funding essential recreations and so on and so forth. So I think the crucial point here is balancing both, because I think some members have really alluded to the fact that they want to broaden it, and that's where my concern lies significantly. So what I would like to hear from staff is what are their recommendations, because only you know the finances. But also here, there was a discussion on the time element. So if someone can tell me what is the time component of it, what is the restriction for timing of this motion? And I appreciate that Mayor Carter has said that he should have brought this in January. So my question on that is, can you explain or broaden the time element on this, please?
Mayor Carter?
My desire is for it to come back as quick as possible. I would like to see it in March, just because of the reason that I think what we're trying to do is prepare ourselves for whatever the tariffs are implemented. So I don't know. What I do want to do is, I understand there's an urgency. I want it addressed. I want us to have a position, and I want us ready to be able to go as soon as it happens. So that's why I have a desire of, if there is a report, which I'm not against, I'd like it to come back in March, not in April. I think it just, this is the moment, this is a moment of urgency. So I hope that helps with clarification.
Yeah, absolutely. Through you, Chair, I have no issues supporting the motion, but I have concerns that I'd like to see a fulsome from staff, especially if some members want to broaden it. That's where my concern lies. So I would like to have some more discussion on what it is in a fulsome. Thank you. But I have no issues supporting this motion. I'll just leave it there. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Nicholson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have great concerns with the message we send with a referral. We are at a point in time in our country, and here in Durham as well, where we need to show leadership. We need to show a commitment to standing up for our industry, standing up for jobs and investment in Durham. And it is my fear that if we simply refer this back for a lot of fine tuning and talking shop scenarios, we're going to send a message that we are just a talking shop, that we're not willing to stand up and be counted. The motion clearly states that it's asking staff to develop an installment program, that the program be backdated, and the regional staff directors associated bylaws to make that change. Nothing in the motion prevents further work to be done on this file. But if we simply refer it back to March or April, the time is, my fear is that the time that we use to investigate this is the time that the businesses are going to use to go elsewhere. They need a signal from this council They need a very clear sign from this council that we are in their corner, that we're going to fight for them, that we're going to look at every opportunity to provide them with a rationale how to fight this economic warfare against our community, and to ensure that they understand that if they commit to us, we'll commit to them. If we refer this, I think we're sending the opposite message. We're sending the message that, yeah, we can talk about it, but we're not committed to actually taking the actions. I think Mayor Carter and Councillor Maventry's comments were correct. We need to send this signal to our business community, to our industrial investors, and to all those who want to see jobs and investment in our community, that we're in their corner. And we don't need to talk about it, we need to do it. So honestly, and I say this respectfully to all members of council, we need to stand up today. We need to endorse this motion as a clear message. And if we need to fine tune other parts moving forward in future months and work with our staff, we can do that. But this is almost a sense of adoption in principle. We're going to do this and we'll work out the details later. I can assure you, those that are trying to hurt our country aren't talking about it. They're taking action. We must be resilient in favor when we're attacked like this. Thank you.
Councillor Colley?
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
I think I will support sending it back to staff. And the reason why I say this is we need to be calculated. This is a very sensitive issue. And, you know, as somebody that's as close to the steel industry as I am, I clearly understand what is coming at us. And you know, but there's so many unknowns. And I don't think anyone on this council is an economist. And I think that we're best to get some really good advice before we make any moves. It's not that I disagree with this. It's not that I oppose it, but it needs to be smart. And it needs to be very carefully considered. And as quickly as possible, absolutely. But I think the guidance needs to be there. And all of the outcomes, possible outcomes, need to be in front of us before we go down the rabbit hole. Thank you.
That would be the report. Okay. So, Mayor Carter, if you would allow me, I'm not disagreeing with what you're trying to do, but I'm going to try to help you. If you were to take the last paragraph and you were to change it, that regional staff be directed to develop the programs to bring forward the bylaws for consideration and approval. And I would be happy to call a special meeting of council to deal with this item. So now you can amend the recommendation to refer it back to staff. We can amend this. So Mr. Clerk, procedurally, we need to
We don't need to do anything with this today. You can call a special meeting for that purpose, and we can put a motion on the agenda. You want to do the direction? Okay.
Yeah. So if we could
Refer it to a special meeting of council. Okay.
with this added.
Yeah.
So I would need a motion, or do I have the ability to call a special meeting?
You have the ability to call a special meeting, but I would suggest the
I would-
referral to give staff the direction to do so.
So, Mayor, sorry, this is a little confusing on short notice. So Mayor Carter, if you would like to refer this to a special meeting of the council to be called on the, to be called by the chair as soon as he gets the information, and make that motion, I would be happy to do that and then call that meeting when it's needed. But the clerk is suggesting that we need a motion.
Well, Mayor Schumer's referral would need to be withdrawn.
Okay, so to do this, so I'm trying to get there.
Can you turn, so why don't we call the question on the referral right now that it's supposed to go to April? Why don't we just call that and see where that lands? Is that fair enough? Yeah.
Somebody called a point of order. Mayor Roy?
Can't the referral just be to a special council meeting?
It could be, but we need to have the direction would have to be incorporated into the referral.
Schumer could ask
Just defer to
Okay,
a special council
so
meeting
this is-
with the
this is-
direction.
Okay, this is why substantive motion should not be brought to the council floor.
And I'll take responsibility for that,
So,
Mr. Chair.
let me go back to Mayor Schumer. Mayor Schumer, would you be willing
Yes.
to adjust your referral with the addition of the item that I read into it, and to refer it to a special meeting to be called, a special meeting of council to be called on this item?
I did indicate as soon as possible, ASAP. So I would think that that could incorporate easily a special.
Okay, who is
Meeting.
the seconder on the referral? Councilor Anderson, you're good with the wording? Okay, so members of council understand what we're doing on the referral? Okay, I'm coming back to you, Mayor Carter.
No, I'll pass. Thank you.
Councilor Nicholson.
Thank you. Just on a procedural matter, if you can assist me, Mayor Schumer moved and seconded by Councilor Anderson, moved a motion to refer, which was debated by a number of councilors. Would it not then require, if he wishes to amend his motion of referral to a completely different body, would that not require an amendment to be passed rather than simply an acquiescence by mover and seconder?
Yeah. So, Councillor, I accepted, or what we proposed was accepted as a friendly amendment, so it shouldn't have changed anything.
Well, with respect, that's an interpretation. I don't see it as friendly at all. I see it as another delaying tactic. So my question is, I was willing to vote against the referral. Now my opportunity to speak on that has been removed because the amendment's been made after I spoke.
Councillor Nicholson, you have the floor. I'm prepared to hear your comments now.
Okay, if you are, the comments I put.
Sorry, there was a, and can you turn your camera on, please? Okay.
Sorry, it keeps popping off. Thank you. My concern, Mr. Chairman and members of council, is that, as indicated earlier, we're sending a thing. What I'm hearing here is we're going to call a meeting. So the question I would put, and the reason I have a concern is that meeting going to be the first couple of weeks in March? Is it going to be in April? Is it open-ended? Because it seems to be whenever staff can do the report. And staff, I think, need a direction from the council of what our expectation is to get it back. It can't be simply open-ended to whenever you finish the report. I think this council, if it's going to amend this motion, has to give a direct date as to no later than this date. And Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if you would agree to that. To put a date in there that says the staff report back to council as a special meeting no later than, and insert a date.
So, Councillor Nicholson, it was going to come back to the council meeting in April. I will advance it as fast as staff is able to deliver that report prior to that council meeting. I cannot give you an exact date, but it'll be before the next council meeting.
Well, with respect, Mr. Chairman, that's the problem that some of us are identifying here. What you're telling us is that you're going to take at least 6 weeks, possibly longer, if staff can't put it together. I happen to believe staff can put it together if council directs that it's a priority. I've seen our staff do wonderful work over the years in addressing high priority items in a matter of weeks, if needed, if council gave a direction that this is a high priority item. In today's economic market, I can't think of a more high priority item that our staff should be working on than this motion. And I'm confident that our staff, if given a proper direction, can have this back in March. My fear, as I stated earlier, is if we wait past March, we'll have missed our opportunity to impact the decision-making of many businesses. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to our CAO. Madam CEO, how quickly do you think you can do this?
In consulting with staff through you, Mr. Chair, the regular March council meeting would be a definite challenge. There are a number of other priority activities going on at this time. We would be prepared, however, to commit to reporting to a special meeting of council that took place prior to the April council meeting, the regular April council meeting, if that works.
Councillor Nicholson?
Well, again, we're getting before the next April council meeting. The next council meeting in April is the end of April. We're not talking about, the first week of April. We're talking the end of April, which is literally almost 2 months from this date. So to say you're going to be here before that date, I think is woefully, and I hate to say this respectfully, insufficient to the priority we need.
So Councillor.
What we need is a meeting earlier than that.
So Councillor Nicholson, it's a substantial amount of work, but let me go back to our CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is what I was going to reiterate. It is a substantial amount of work, not only to develop and design the program, but also to draft the appropriate bylaws and to be able to fully inform council of any financial implications. I can guarantee you and assure you that staff will work as quickly as possible to achieve this, but it is a significant portion of work.
Councillor Nicholson.
And to the CEO, I appreciate that. This is why some of us have made the argument that we need to adopt this motion in principle, approve these 3 steps today, get our position on record that we are committed to this area of steps to be taken, and then the details can be worked out subsequently. If we're not going to even adopt in principle until we get all the I's dotted and the T's dotted, this thing is going to go on for months. So what I'm trying to say to you is if council is truly committed to this, and it appears from what I'm hearing everybody is, adopt Councillor Carter and Councillor Marenpre's motion, add a direction following it, that staff prepare the detailed report and report back to a special meeting of council. I believe that's a sufficient compromise program. We're making the statement that we're going down this path, then the details will be worked out subsequently. But simply to say we're not even going to make the decision until everything is done, we're going to miss the boat. Thank you.
So members of council, I'm going to make a request. I would like a 15-minute recess. I need to take the opportunity to have a conversation with staff, and I would appreciate somebody moving a 15-minute recess. Mayor Ash, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kerr. On a 15-minute recess, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? In opposition? Seeing none. Could I have the clerk, our treasurer, the CAO, and our lawyer in the adjoining room, please? Okay, I'll ask for the second time. Members of council and staff, please take your seats. Thank you for being punctual. Mr. Clerk, if you could do a roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronic roll call is starting now.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, we have quorum. Okay. Okay. So members of council, thank you for the opportunity, she's here, the opportunity to go back and have a conversation with staff. And just so you know, staff is supportive of this direction. But there's a challenge here, and when you change or dealing with the development charges and the bylaws, there may be a need for a public meeting. So we're not able to determine that right now, but what we will do is we will use that March meeting as that public meeting to deal with this item. So staff have helped collectively in the back. We have come up with wording for a referral. I'm going to have it put up on the screen so that you can see. So all members of council, you've now had a chance to see this. Mayor Schumer, as the mover of the referral, would you be prepared to withdraw your referral and move this?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Councillor Anderson is the second. You're in agreement. Okay, so Mr. Clerk, the mover and the seconder have withdrawn the referral. They have duly moved this referral. I'm now going back to the speakers list. Okay, we're on the right page here. All right. Mayor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to say that I fully support the original motion that came forward. I believe that the last paragraph or the last lines speak to what this referral motion would be bringing back to us. Councillor Nicholson basically echoed my sentiments. I fully respect that it's more complex than just saying okay, but I agree that the time for action is now, and again, 2 months down the road is a long way off, as we are the fish on the hook. So those are my sentiments, and I fully support the original motion.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On the referral, Councillor Mayor Pietri.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate that staff had the opportunity to speak to you and assess, where they believe procedurally and I think practically they can go, and the mechanics that, I believe they are comfortable with. I don't share the support for the referral, and I'll tell you why. There are 30,000 jobs dependent on our action or inaction. I think Mayor Watton indicated quite clearly. And I think, Mayor Carter has been very charitable in assessing blame for not bringing this forward sooner, but the President of the United States was elected November 5th, I believe. And I think in some of the messages I received over the break, conversations that I had, even a phone call, the concern was that we're not being as nimble or as focused as we should be on what the elephant in the room is. And I think we've had discussions. I know I was very clear in the last 2 council meetings as to how intense the geopolitical play is. And some of the issues that we're incurring are outside of our control, but the ones that are within our control, within our authority, need to be addressed, and I think in a much more nimble manner. I think that market conditions are predicated on a number of things, but In this particular case, I think the question was, what's the urgency? I think the average person would look and say, November 5th was when this threat was presented. So the question would then be, how come we haven't acted with that urgency since then? And it's not a criticism, it's just the average person looking from the outside and saying, is it difficult? Is it that difficult to do something in a state of emergency that dependent families and the economy is beholden to and impacted by? Because if it is, then we have a problem. And the problem is that we seem to focus more on procedure and protocol than we do on action. And I don't mean that to be, just for this room. I mean that in terms of government and governance. And I think that we're all recognizing that. That break gave us an opportunity to have conversations and to assess the importance of moving forward with the original motion. And as I think a number of council members alluded to, including, I believe, Councillor Nicholson, the 3 points, if moving forward with those 3 points, will give us the opportunity to be timely in our execution, but also allow staff to do as, you indicated to be important for them to assess, what bylaws need to come forward. That does not preclude that. In fact, what it does is activate that. So a referral for a meeting, even though it'd be a special meeting prior to April 25th, or April 2025, I think is not sending the right message, but at the same time, also playing chicken with a major industry that doesn't just impact the city of Oshawa. I know that there are members of this industry that work and live and have families and businesses that are dependent on it within your communities, each of our communities. So I don't know how else to say it, but I do think that a referral is not just the wrong message. It is too little, too late, I think, and I think it's important for us to activate the original motion. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think anyone in this room would not support this motion, and we all agree that due to the tariff coming from south of the border, we have to do all we can to keep our jobs here and promote jobs in Canada. So my question was really around the bylaws. If I wasn't clear whether a public meeting would be required and how long a notice is take to go out, etc., before that happens. So I believe you alluded to the fact that there would have to be a public meeting.
There may have to.
May have to be. Is there? Can I get a definitive answer on that? Whether or not there will have to be?
I don't believe Mr. Hunt can give you a definitive answer yet, but Mr. Hunt?
Yeah, I think it's in the 80% range, but if we don't have to do a public meeting, it's obviously going to accelerate the time frame. So we're definitely looking at it, but I would say that's our plan right now, is to plan for a public meeting. So this will happen as quickly as staff can possibly get it done, based on that as being probably the main time constraint. The drafting, some of the other things, we'll get that done, but if there's a public meeting requirement, those steps are going to dictate the time frame more than the work that staff are doing.
Okay, just as a follow-up, Chair, what are the factors that you would need to determine whether a public meeting would be required?
Well, I mean, I guess at a high level, the purpose of a DC study on public meeting is to ensure appropriate consultation on the mix of funding between taxpayers and growth paying for growth. So that's really at the heart of that public meeting requirement. Because this is a deferral plan and because it's provided for in the legislation, which allows municipalities to do deferral plans, you're not necessarily breaching that policy. That doesn't mean you can get out of legislation. We've got to check the legislation pretty carefully. But because it's achieving the policy goal, there's maybe a faint hope, I would say, that a public meeting is not required.
Okay, so in other words, if there's no need for a public meeting, the project will go ahead quite expeditiously. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a meeting with staff actually already set for tomorrow to get it started.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hunt's comment actually strengthens the case that some of us are making that we need to pass this motion today. His statement was that, the legislation already says we can defer. We're not adding one dime to the collection of development charges that aren't already passed by this council following a series of subcommittee meetings. This motion seeks to simply change when you collect. The legislature of the province of Ontario has passed legislation that says you have the right to do that. So I think what we're doing is we're creating molehills and trying to turn them into mountains to block this resolution. And I simply don't accept that. Our business community is looking at us today. They're looking at us to see what we do. And people seem to think that business only makes their decisions based on monetary analysis. But I would suggest to you, they also make their decisions, whether they're located in Durham region, based on the confidence they have that there is a good business climate in this region that allow them to grow and prosper. Right now, a large number of businesses are making that decision today. In the next few weeks, they'll be deciding whether they want to invest in Durham or not. They're going to decide whether they want to stay the course or they're going to be chased off by some of the actions coming out of the United States. If we stand with them, if we say we're in your corner, we have your back, if we send them a clear message that we will always defend our local industries and business from outside organizations trying to harm them, then we'll have more confidence and they'll have more confidence that Durham is the right place to invest and to grow their business. But it's not just those who are making investments who are watching today. There are businesses that are currently operating in this region are going to take the decision we make today and apply that to their future. We already heard the head of the auto industry in the United States say, if tariffs go through, we may have to move plants. That is on the table today in their boardrooms. We need to send a message to our auto industry that we're in their corner and we're going to fight to keep these plants here. We need to reach out to our agribusiness and let them know that we're going to do all we can to stop the attacks on the profitability of farms and farm families. It's not a matter of just one corner of Oshawa or one corner of Durham. This is a program that is going to impact all of us. And respectfully, I say this, and I'm quite passionate about it. We need to stand up and send a message that we're not going to be bullied. We're not going to be tariffed into an economic downturn. We are going to do everything that we have. And we're going to cast every vote we can to support our business and to support our community. And a referral vote isn't a vote to defend. A referral vote is a vote to keep talking. I think, respectfully, the time for talking is over. Support the three motions, and then we can work out the details subsequently. But if you don't support the motion today, the only message the public is going to hear is we didn't vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to remind members of council that our economic development groups collectively have been working on this for a while now, and that this council and committee of the whole passed a motion dealing with tariffs and how we were going to manage that going forward at our last committee of the whole meeting. Councillor Chapman.
Good segue, Mr. Chair, because as much as this has come up now and Mayor Carter said he should have brought it in January because of the tariffs, I think it probably should have been brought 2 years ago. It's about development. You know that you'll see the report next week, that our economic development have had over 150 investment prospects, leads that we've done. Now, I don't know how many of them decided not to come here because of development charges. but it's certainly probably fair to say that some of them have, given the fact of the state of the economy and the state of the threats from the tariffs now, if you put them all together. I agree with Mayor Collier. This is a good thing moving forward to attract this industrial businesses to Durham region. You remember the late Chair Anderson used to always say, it's Durham's time, it's Durham's time. Nobody is looking east of the Rouge River. Nobody is looking east of Toronto. Well, let's let them have an opportunity to wide look east with something like this to help them develop those industrial, which will present taxes in the end to us, but also present a lot of jobs, right? We're not going to lose any money from it, given this motion, because we're still going to charge the development charges, and we're going to get the interest each year from whatever the deferral is, right? And I'm very confident that our staff will figure it out. Maybe somebody wants to defer it for the whole 5 years, maybe somebody only wants to defer it for a couple of years, and that will all get worked out. And the last piece of the motion says to change the associated bylaws. Well, guess what, group? Bylaws have to come back here for approval. We have to approve the bylaws, right? So we're going to see them in the end fixed up the way they should be, how this process is going to work from the actual bylaw. Now, about the referral, I can't support the referral, and here's one of the main reasons why. Well, two reasons. I'll give you two reasons. One is I think putting this off is not a good thing given the state of where we are right now. Everybody says, well, you know, we might be changing the federal government. We might, the tariffs might not come into effect. Yeah, but as I said, it doesn't matter if the tariffs come into effect or not. If they don't come in, that's even better, because then more companies want to come here, and maybe they'll come east of Toronto because of the way we're doing our development charges. But the other reason I have about this deferral, the wording, presented at a special meeting. You know how difficult it is for us to find all of us time. I don't know about everybody in this room, but I am busy quite a bit. And this is why when we did our budget, I believe, that we set special committee of the whole meetings in advance. So I know that this fall, not to book anything and to be available for a committee of the whole meeting. Now try and find that, and I don't think a subject this important is good enough to say, well, you know, we only have quorum at this meeting, and sometimes that happens. We only have quorum at this meeting to vote on an important thing because we can't find a date that all of us are available. So I think we should approve the motion today, bring the bylaws back when they come, and approve the bylaws like we do. Mayor Ash's comments at the end of every meeting, right? Not just the confirming bylaws, but approving bylaw, whatever number. And given the fact that we had over 150 leads last year, our economic development staff are doing a great job, and that's the composite of not just the region, but all of our local municipalities. They're all working together. Maybe the number that are active investors that you'll see in the report when it comes next week, right? Maybe that will increase due to the fact that we're going to do this with development charges. So I don't support the referral, and I think we should get on with it. As whichever company says it, get her done. Thanks.
Okay, Mayor Foster.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I strongly agree with Councillor Chapman, and I also strongly disagree with Councillor Chapman. It is, and it's healthy. I agree that we should have done this earlier. No ifs, ands, or buts. So while we're focused on the industrial side, Mr. Bridgman, we did what, 20% of the housing starts last year that we anticipated we were going to do? I read a report some time back.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't nearly what had been forecast. Some municipalities did better than others and met their targets, but across the board, it was a low year.
So, you know, let's let that sink in. The construction industry, which is a huge industry here in Durham, last year, you had 20%. And I'm going to suggest that means that, you know, 80% that didn't get done, massive impacts on employment right here. So we should have, and Mayor Carter for bringing this forward, thank you, should have been looking at this and need to look at this. But, and I'm going to go to Councillor Mulcahy's comments, We are supposed to do informed decision-making. Staff are asking us to please inform ourselves. Now, you know, we're hearing that we're deferring this as an excuse to say no. We've already heard from the chair and from staff that they are supportive of this. It's just a matter of getting it done in the right fashion. It's a matter of us knowing what we are doing, why we are doing it. The special council meeting, Councillor Chapman, I'll disagree that if for some reason we cannot make that meeting, we have an ability through our colleagues to let our voices be heard on that meeting. But calling a special meeting is no small thing. Calling a special meeting sends a very clear signal to the business community that we're going to do something. And I think a very strong signal that we're having this debate today, that the chair has called that meeting, that staff have said that they are supportive but wants to get it right, sends a clear meeting. No U.S. automaker is going to stop their plans to build a new plant in the States based on a few weeks of DC deferrals here. We don't have 30,000 jobs at risk because there aren't 30,000 jobs worth of applications right now in front of us. I have no idea how many applications are out there. You know, I've got to think that for the folks that are looking at getting shovels in the ground immediately, you know, the thought that we might put something in place that is helpful, and quite frankly, on the residential side as well, we've got to be cognizant of how difficult it is to get financing. But we also need to be cognizant that this could have major impacts, particularly locally, and I know we're not talking locally, but potentially significant impacts on some of the specific development charge funds. So, you know, please, let's get good advice from staff. I have every confidence that we are going to move forward with something progressive, something that's needed, and frankly, something that was needed probably a couple of years ago. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. So again, question to staff, just for my own clarity. What if as it's proposed in the motion, that it's going to be deferred over 5 years and we're collecting interest, what is it, what am I missing that we're not going to be made whole of, or what are we missing? Is it interest rate risk that is the main concern? Like what am I missing?
So through the chair, of course, my proviso here is that we're talking industrial. I know the dialogue is a bit mixed here. It's not, at this point, and it's been referenced, staff is not suggesting that there are barriers. We actually want to do this in a way that complies with legislation that we have no ability to waive. So the Development Charges Act lays out a very prescribed process. Our solicitor mentioned that it does allow for deferral agreements, but those deferral agreements are also not delegated to staff. So council has to approve a sequence of things, and all we want to do is make sure that council is approving that sequence of things so that there are no challenges by other parties who may have a problem. That's the point of the public process. So staff is not at all suggesting that I'm going to do an analysis to prove something about lost revenue if we proceed down this pathway. We simply just want to make sure that you have the right approvals in front of you for the correct bylaws and notices so that this can happen.
All right, so I appreciate that. So I'm going to rephrase for clarity. So you're saying we don't see any financial risk, this is only procedural risk?
If it's focused on industrial, if it broadens beyond that, then we will have cash flow and capital program implications. But if you're focused on industrial only, and that's what council approves, because of the, to date, not hugely active industrial activity, at this point, you know, if this helps to move things forward, particularly in light of what's going on in the States, you know, staff has no concerns particular to industrial with respect to cost impacts if we're recovering on an appropriate interest rate, which we would want to make sure is fair and balanced. And I don't mean that in the favor of the region, I mean fair and balanced so that it actually achieves what you as a council appear to be wishing to achieve.
All right, so and I appreciate that. So what are the risks if we say Council approves this direction in principle, subject to staff following all the procedures. So we can signal to the business community that, yes, we're doing this, and our due diligence is going to happen over the next number of weeks. What is the risk if we say something like that?
So through council, I think that was what we were trying to attempt with the wording where it says a report which implements a development charges program. So that's what we were trying to capture in the phrasing of this amendment before you, so that you could say, we have told staff this is our direction, and they're going to come back with all of the proper things to make it so. So that was our attempt on this wording. Instead of referral to consider, it says which implements ADC. So that's why we amended this wording. Again, I don't know if the CA wishes to add, but that was our goal here, was to make it clear that this was your position and you were giving us direction to get it implemented statutorily correctly as fast as we could.
Just to reiterate that through you, Mr. Chair, and in order to implement that, we do have to develop the program and develop the bylaws, and it cannot be implemented until we bring those bylaws to council for approval. So we're trying to send the message that, yes, we're advancing this program, but there are a number of steps that legally we have to follow, and we're committed to doing all of this prior to the regular April council meeting.
Appreciate that. Maybe the question to the clerk. If we go back to the main motion and basically just say that we agree to this deferral process in principle, subject to staff following all of the regulatory procedures, why do we even need a deferral?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would probably suggest that if the main motion were to pass, that staff would take the necessary actions regardless in order to enact the will of council. That will require an analysis of those elements that need to be done for statutory purposes. So I don't think an amendment to that effect would be necessary. It's implied.
Perfect. Okay, so everything that everyone's talking about is going to happen if we pass the main motion, and essentially a deferral is not necessary. So I know people talk about they're not different pieces as an economist. Well, I actually went to school as an economist, so that's actually what my undergrad is. So I can try and apply a little bit of that knowledge back there. And I'll layer that in, being a politician representing a community for 15 years, that sending a signal to the business community is very important. The signal we want to send is that we're supportive of stuff that's already legislatively allowed in the Development Charges and Municipal Act, that we can defer things over a number of years, we can collect interest, we can provide a deferral program to development charges, and there are no risks. So what's really important is our messaging. We are going to do the due diligence. I have nothing but confidence in staff and their ability to do the due diligence, but for us to leave today to have a motion passed saying that we're going to support in principle the deferral of development charges on industrial areas is so important to me. So any deferral sends the signal that we need to spend more time in committee to make a decision. If we're all supportive, if staff are going to do the work, let's send the signal that we support this on the main motion. Let's help out our friends in Oshawa that are asking for us for a favor to investment in our community, make things move forward, and signal to the development community that we are open for business, that we are going to do things within our power, allowed within the legislation, to make things easier for them to pass the procedure. Maybe we're only going to get a few extra investments, but we're not getting them right now. So like Whitby, our development charges are way down because our applications are way down across the board. This is a signal we can do on the main motion. So there's no way I can support the deferral. That is the wrong message to the business community. From my perspective, and I actually did go to school to be an economist, that we need to be signaling to the community. We are in unprecedented times with the threat of tariffs from our strongest ally in the US. We need to be sending signals of support. We need to be sending signals that we are supportive of the business community with something as simple as a deferral of development charges. So there is no way I can support the deferral. I'm only here to support the main motion, and I'm a recorded vote, please.
Mayor Schumer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, and I'm going to again echo Mayor Foster's points and maybe add to it. But I think, once again, we need to look beyond just industrial. We've got a lot of people, a lot of businesses that are going to be potentially impacted by tariffs. And why are we leaving them out? I understand the concern here. It is concerning. But we've left out a whole possible other area that affects growth, affects employment, and it's not in this motion. And I would appreciate it if staff did look at that. And I understand that if it's broadened, there will be a financial impact to the region. And on that, you know, it is our due diligence. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the region to think this through. You know, the U.S. Had a knee-jerk reaction. The Orange Menace has brought a lot of chaos throughout the world because they don't bother to think. They don't bother to think things through and really, you know, contemplate what's the impact of this. That's the nature of the beast now for the next 4 years at least. But I think we've got to think this through, and we've got to think, hey, can we even make this better than what is proposed? You know, and you know, the interest. You know, what's going to end up happening? How are we going to look? We could look like idiots if we end up essentially making the DCs more expensive than if the business, if the whoever it will be, you know, more expensive through regional interest than it would be for them to go through some kind of other external financing. As has been said, we're still going to collect the DCs. In fact, we're going to make them more expensive by adding interest to them. So, you know, I think it's imperative that we really think this through, because how's it going to look if we go out to these businesses and say, yeah, okay, you know, you can pay your DCs over time, but it's going to cost you really this much more. And they could look back and go, well, thanks for the offer, but geez, I can beat that interest rate at the bank. And some of them might be struggling to get that financing external, but then, you know, there is a concern there as well. You know, are we being the bank of last resort for businesses? And what does that say to the potential ability for whatever project it might be to actually be realized? You know, it sucks that we've got rules that we have to go by, and we have responsibilities to make decisions, as Mayor Foster said, well-informed decisions. And, you know, it's unfortunate, yes, that this is coming to us, you know, without much notice at all. But, you know, I think it's imperative that we do have all the information and that the changes be well thought out, that they be thorough and fulsome. And rather than, oh, geez, we should have added this, so let's talk about adding that. Oh, we should have changed this, let's change that. How's that going to look? What message does that send? You know, that we're flying by the seat of our pants, amending things for the next few months. I think it does send a very good message that we are talking about this, that we are all basically behind it. And it also sends a very good message that the region is thinking this process through, that we're going to get there. And it may take a few more weeks, but we're going to get there. Nobody, I can assure you, nobody is going to make the decision in the next few weeks to say, well, that's it, we're packing up, we're leaving. Because if they're that close to it, they've made the decision already, okay? The fact that we are seriously contemplating this is a very good signal, and I think it goes out there. And I think it sends a very good signal that we're doing it in a responsible way. We're not a knee-jerk reaction like down in the States that started this whole mess. So, you know, it's I think it's imperative that we do this, and I don't see why, if the report is fulsome, that even the recommended bylaws can't come at the same meeting that the report comes. And if there is even a change at that meeting, the bylaws could be reflected and amended at that meeting. Thank you.
So thank you. Mr. Clerk, procedurally, we can have the information brought forward and council can make a decision. It's a council meeting, right? When the report comes, so we can make the decision at that special meeting or whenever. It would be in effect as of that meeting. Okay, thank you. Mayor Carter.
Mr. Chair, I think you'd be proud of me right now because I'm multitasking.
I know you're busy.
I'm on the line with the Ottawa Caucus mayors. We have about 90 of us that are on right now. The urgency of what is happening is quite clear in this meeting about the seriousness of the moment. What our attempt was to truly be able to express to my colleagues and yourself what we've experienced through our communication with the companies that we're meeting. What I can tell you is the decisions are being made as we speak right now in regards to what they need to do to be able to survive as a company. What I've tried to do is express to this council that the reason why we brought this forward at this particular time is is because I've been equipped with that information now. And it would be irresponsible of me not to share that, because I can't be the only one that is going to be sharing similar stories. I disagree in regards to Mayor Schumer's comments that they've already made these decisions. In my circumstance, companies are looking for ways of being able to be competitive, keep local, and keep jobs here locally. And they made it quite clear, Mr. Chairman, that they need our support, both in our actions and our support in regards to what we're willing to do. I also clearly understand some of the hesitancy from staff and yourself and other members of this chamber. But I'll be very honest with you. What I'm experiencing through the conversations I'm having with companies is they need the assurance immediately that we walk with them and understand the challenges that they're facing and the difficult, very difficult decisions that they're going to have to make. In regards to interest charges, when I spoke to the companies, they said, we have every expectation that we would see that if there was a deferral, that we would have to pay an interest. We're not going to go out to the bank and say, by the way, can you lend us this interest money so that we could pay they have an expectation that there would be a cost. What this is about cash flow and truly being able to strategically make those investments, Mr. Chairman, into a place that makes it affordable for them to compete even with 25 or 50% tariffs. And what I wanted to do was share with my colleagues what our personal experiences are and remind all of us the only thing that we can do are the things within our own grasp. I respect everybody's vote. I respect your concerns. What I want to do is I want to send a clear message today that we are absolutely committed in regards to the supporting of keeping those companies here, and we will look at every opportunity. And by the way, Mr. Chair, my last moment, I don't expect this will be the last conversation we have. And the reason why is because even in my colleagues that are sharing with them right now, this is very evolutionary. A new challenge will continue. I didn't mean it as an offhand remark when I said that the president will continue to throw chum in the water. He's going to continue to do that because he can. Because he wants us, as he said, on our knees. Canadians have demonstrated that we are united, that we believe in our country. We believe in those that have created opportunities. But we also understand that who we are dealing with on the other side of the border. So this will not be the last conversation we're going to have about this. And this isn't the last program that we'll come up with, because all of us will continue to learn and hear about things that we could bring to the floor to be able to demonstrate that we want to support our communities. So whatever way you vote, I respect your vote. I respect what staff are sharing with me. But there is an urgency on this moment. And I just wanted to share this one example that I have, that these decisions will be made within days. The Auto Caucus just said right now that if the tariffs do come in, the auto industry in Canada will come to a close within 48 hours. That's the expert speaking, and I'm concerned about that. We need to do everything we possibly can to be able to show that we are up to the fight and we'll do everything possible. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to share that with you.
Nobody leave their chairs, just a minute with the clerk. Mayor Carter, I absolutely agree with what you're trying to move here today. I'm going to ask that we have a working lunch. Lunch is in the back. That we take 20 minutes, gather your lunch up, come back and eat in the room, in this room, and allow us to go back and work on this again. Okay, Councillor Lee, 20-minute recess. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Kerr, on a 20-minute recess. Ms. Clerk, all those in favor? Opposed? None, that carries. Lunch is in the back for members of council and staff. Please. Okay. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Electronic roll call is starting now.
Good to go. Okay, Councillor Nicholson, you were the last to speak to me just during lunch. I'll go to you first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern is that during the last vote, the call for mover and seconder and the motion and the call of the question occurred in one sentence without a breath. There was no opportunity for members of council who may have wished to, like myself, to actually put that to a recorded vote to see if council wanted to break. There was not even enough time for you to count heads. It was like, I want the motion moved. You got to move in a seconder, and you called the question carried without any opportunity for those of us who are in opposition to express our point of view. I don't think that's good practice.
Well, I'm sorry, Councillor Nicholson, but I would have had to call for the recess because during recess, I was able to get additional comments from staff that I need to conduct this meeting. So I apologize. Next time I'll take a longer count.
Thank you. I'm assuming, Mr. Chair, that we have a third or fourth iteration of a motion to try to stop the one before us? Is that correct?
Councillor Nicholson, the meeting will continue as it has been continuing. We're currently on the amendment, and I came back to you out of respect that you were the last one in the meeting, but I do have a speakers list.
Thank you.
Mayor Roy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, I could shut down the vote and call for the question. I'm not going to because it is very important, this conversation that we are having, so much so that the urgency of this dialogue is one that has been dependent on one individual who's created this chaos. And this chaos has thrown us all into a state of such urgency. And I'm not speaking of you, Mayor Carter. Yeah, clarification. And but I do know, and as Mayor Carter's just gotten off the auto mayor's call as well too, is that we're all scrambling, and we're all scrambling in a way to find ways we can help business. And I don't think there's no denying, and I'm going to say this right now, words do matter. And I think it's like it's important to say that the regional council does support our local businesses. There's no denying that. So whatever action of moving forward, to say that if it's a referral, that it's not supporting business, that's inaccurate and that's not factual. And I want that on the record. Members of this council do support business. And it's important that the way that we support business, but also support our community at large, is doing it in a manner that's transparent. I also know that with the timing of all this, yes, it's been since November that the announcement has been made by the President of the United States as to where this is going to go and what he is going to do, and continues to do so. But ultimately, the control of what we can control is within our own house, and I think that's where we need to start. Do I support with what is being brought forward? I do, but I do want some information. I want some information. Oshawa, they do not have an industrial DC. Other municipalities do have industrial DCs. Do I want Oshawa to lose a business potentially? No, I don't want Oshawa to lose the business. That is probably at the whole center of this. We need to be supporting that, but we also need to be supporting what is taking place across our region as well too, because I think that there are many other businesses across, even within the community of Whitby, but beyond the community of Whitby, that this would be beneficial to for their expansion and their ability to stay within our community. And this is one where we have to bring that conversation together as one and not one of divide. This debate has created divide. And it is one where it's the support for our businesses, the voice for our businesses, and being able to share that collective voice, all of us as leaders of the community, to say we support what's happening locally within our province, within our region, because what's happening to the south, we can't control that. Our narrative needs to be controlled here. And I'm going to say that I do support business. I do also support transparency, and I also support that, you know, while the motion should have been brought sooner and the understanding of like what is taking place with our businesses is urgent, sometimes urgency does need to have that conversation at the same time to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row to understand what this implication could have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Well, I will call a question, Mr. Chair.
Well, you're the last speaker, so there's no need.
Well, in that case, I will put in a couple of quick comments then.
So now Councillor Leahy wants to call the question.
So I guess what I'm saying here is the original motion focused on the industrial base only. That's what we should be passing today. If there's concern about the downstream consequences with commercial and residential, then by all means, bring a report back, take your time, bring it back so we can see what those downstream consequences are. But the consequences in the industrial sector are here today, and that's what we need to vote on. And now I guess we'll vote. Thank you.
No. No, okay. So this is a recorded vote on the referral. Everybody is aware of what we're doing. Okay. Mr. Clerk, on the referral?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the referral motion is starting now. Looking for Mayor Barton online. Second call for Mayor Barton. Last call for Mayor Barton.
Okay, so the referral loses. So we're back to the main motion. Mayor Carter? Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to go in order or I'll be in trouble. Councillor Nicholson. Councillor
Thank
Nicholson.
you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call the question.
Okay, seconded. So we're okay. Members of council, there is a change to this that should be made. So Councillor Nicholson, can I ask you to hold off on the calling the question till we put the wording out? And I'll come back.
No.
Okay, procedure. Okay, so procedurally, then calling the question is Mayor Collier. If that's the path you want to go, fine. You want a second call on the question? So you're withdrawing your second. Is there anyone else wishing to second and calling the question? Okay, that loses. Mayor Carter.
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is, through our clerk and yourself, that we have an amendment that we'd like to put forward on the main motion itself that I find that both myself and the seconder of the motion is comfortable with. And I'd ask for support of this council so we can move forward.
So can we put the wording up and highlight the little change that took place?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our regional clerk and all staff for our help in this.
Okay, it's been highlighted. Okay. All right, thank you. Councillor Shahid,
I'd like to see the amendment. I was just wanting
it's
to.
on your screen. Right there.
Yes, so what I wanted to know procedurally, through you, Chair, was the fact that even if we vote on this, we will still have those positions in place for everything that the CAO had
Yeah.
mentioned. Perfect, that's all. Thank you.
So this is the amendment. It's just a simple word changing. We're doing it as an amendment. Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Nicholson? Councillor Nicholson?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes. Councillor Nicholson, we lost you again. Okay, Councillor.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yeah, my apologies, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, when I put the video up, it sometimes knocks everything else off.
That's okay.
I obviously support the amendment. I think it was implied in the original motion anyway. But if that gives comfort to the members of council that we can move forward lockstep in support of this motion, obviously I wholeheartedly support it. Just a clarification, is this deemed a friendly amendment with no need for a vote?
It's an amendment. Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment, and then we're going to vote on the.
Who
main
moved?
motion as amended.
Who moved the amendment? Just so I have an
Mayor
knowledge of
Carter
that.
and
Who moved it?
Councillor Marin Pietri.
So they're amending their own motion.
Yes, they are.
Thank you. I support their amendment. I think it's time, as we've had a very urgent and very heartfelt debate, but we need to step together now. And rather than having a 17-10 vote, I'm hopeful we're going to see a 27-0 vote, where we send a very clear message that we are in the corner of our community, in the corner of our business, because business knows no boundary. A plant in Oshawa employs workers from all over this region. So please don't refer to it as an Oshawa problem. If we lose industrial growth in our community, it affects all of us and has much economic downturn as well. Thank you.
Record a vote on both at the appropriate time. Councillor Marin Pietri.
Yeah, I think the notion that the motion's being amended by the movers got a chuckle behind me, but it's unfortunate that we're laughing about something so important. I think it's important also to recognize that it was implied and that we're doing everything, and I think I see the head shaking by the clerk. I really appreciate drawing out the clarity, even though it was already implied. And I think it's important to recognize that the debate that we had today is rather uncomfortable for some, including myself and even the mayor, because it's something that we would not have anticipated a number of months ago. But it's one that we've been having for a number of years. And, you know, my colleagues that sit alongside me and others that have, you know, approached me over the course of the debate have indicated that we've had 190 examples of businesses that have looked at us and not said yes. And I think that our staff do a huge job of trying to figure out how to position the region, how to attract business, but how to secure it all obviously comes down to some of the legislative policies that we put forward in conjunction with what the authority that the province provides us. We can't be apologetic about making decisions. We just can't. I'm not going to. And I think that today, if anyone took offense, whether it be at the staff level, at the council level, that we're doing this, I'm not going to make an apology. I'm going to say that that's not what the intention was. The intention was and is, at all times, to advance the interest of our community. And whether it's to clarify that this motion is for industrial purposes, or whether it's to suggest that it's implied or not, however we arrive at that outcome should be recognized with the due respect for those attempting to do the work Because I think when we look at this on a broad level, we've established that not a dollar is going to be impacted. We're collecting those dollars with interest, but we will have a huge impact if we don't attempt to continue, not just down this path, but down a sensible path that helps us understand why places like Alliston and London and other communities are getting massive job injections versus ours. Is it the DCs? Is it the fact that we're not nimble in terms of advancing policy? Is it because these debates are considered to be uncomfortable? Maybe it's geography. At the end of it, I don't think we should apologize for trying to do our best, because that's what's expected. If we fail, it's not for the lack of trying. If we don't try, we've already failed. So I'm going to support the amendment, as I don't think it's funny. I think it's appropriate, and I think it's acceptable. And I don't think it's funny or inappropriate for us to think about the lives and the livelihood of families that are impacted across the region. Because guess what? If a business is not able to expand or exist in the region, you don't just lose the DCs. You lose the tax dollars that they bring in. You lose the jobs. And it may not be a business in one particular community versus another, but the spin-off, it has a domino effect. So I would caution some of the rhetoric and some of the impositions, or at least some of the dispositions that individuals may have towards politicians that are acting in an urgent manner. But I would again draw the example of many debates that we've had since 2018 for us to advance an alignment of our DCs with the reality and the market conditions of the world to be competitive at a global level. We're not, and hopefully this gets us to some level of comfort for the businesses that are asking us to activate in the industrial space. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. So members of council, record a vote called on both items. So the first is we're calling on the amendment for the word change in the main motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the amendment is starting now.
Okay, so that is unanimous. So, Mr. Clerk, I'll call for the vote on the main motion as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the main motion as amended is starting now.
So that carries as well. Okay. So now we'll move on to, back to the original agenda. Mayor Carter?
I just want to move the next item, move the recommendation.
Well, let me get to it.
Yeah, I do apologize, sorry. I just want to.
So 10.1 is the request for regional financial assistance under the Regional Revitalization Program for the Heathrow Group. Now, Mayor Carter.
My enthusiasm gets me in a lot of trouble, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move the recommendation, please.
Seconded by Councillor Chapman. The item is now on the floor. Online, Mr. Clerk. Mayor Schumer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious on this, because we've seen these kinds of things before. So, there's a lot of indication about percentages for affordable, and I think every member of council might have been reached out by the proponent in the last day or two. I'm just wondering, though, as far as the safeguards to make sure that these units remain affordable, that they remain even, rental or whatever beyond their original purpose. Because my concern is, what can be done by the proponent to sell the entire complex in whatever period of time, and can it all be changed? It's the same concerns that were expressed last year when something similar came before us. I just want to make sure if we've got, are the safeguards in the agreements to make sure that all these benefits being conferred will in fact remain.
So if I may, through the chair, when you read through section 7.7 of the report, there are requirements and an agreement that will take place, and that agreement includes monitoring provisions in order to ensure that the intent of the funds being forwarded are met. So that's where those mechanisms come into play.
Yeah, my concern is longer term, right? Just how long term are these mechanisms in place for? What do they guarantee long term? Because housing is not a short term thing here. We're not talking a hotel. Are these guarantees long term? Can we assure?
So through the chair, City of Oshawa themselves are providing an even longer term incentive. So they, between Oshawa and the region and this agreement, there is long-term monitoring of it satisfying the requirements. I believe it's 10 years, but I'm just looking for that particular section.
Okay, and even if it's sold, those guarantees pass down.
So through the chair, I'm assuming that our agreement is with City of Oshawa, and I'm assuming that City of Oshawa has done their due diligence with respect to what would go on title and enforcement mechanisms and the like, and I see Mayor Carter nodding at me.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Nicholson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Just a question. Was there a request for a recorded vote?
Not yet.
Could I make one then, please?
Sure. Record a vote called by
Thank you.
Councillor Nicholson. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I see no other. Okay, we'll call for the recorded vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the item is starting now. Looking for Councillor Jubb online. Thank you.
Excuse me. That carries. Move on to 10.2, motion regarding requests for gun amnesty. Moved by Councillor Leahy, seconded by, just give me 1 second, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Councillor Leahy.
Perfect, thank you. I'll just quickly read it into the record and have some comments. Whereas the Durham Regional Police have reported a 30% increase in shooting incidents in 2024 over the previous year, and whereas community safety is an essential pillar of a thriving and successful municipality, and whereas the Durham Regional Council is always concerned with providing residents with the greatest possible opportunities to use best practice tools, and whereas not all gun violence is gang violence, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have reported in the past that 80% of all gun deaths are caused by suicide, and whereas the recent increase in gun violence is a cause for concern of all Durham Region residents, whereas there is a current national gun amnesty related to regulated changes to the criminal code that started in 2020 and will run until October 2025 that affects previously licensed owners of firearms, and whereas this amnesty does not cover all devices and firearms that may be in the possession of currently unlicensed owners, and whereas the Durham Regional Police Service, in cooperation with the Ontario Provincial Police, previously held a successful gun amnesty gun surrender event in 2019, and whereas some Durham Region residents may be in possession of unwanted firearms that they wish to dispose of in a responsible manner, and whereas reducing and eliminating the number of unlicensed, unregistered, and unwanted firearms will contribute to making our Durham Region community safer, and whereas it is the authority of the Chief of the Durham Regional Police Service working with the Chief Firearms Officer of the OPP to determine when and how to conduct a firearms amnesty in their jurisdiction, therefore be it resolved that Durham Regional Council request the Chief of the Durham Regional Police to consider applying for and conducting a general firearms amnesty for a 1-month period in the 2025 calendar year, and that this request be forwarded to the Durham Regional Police Services Board for information. So I'll start my comments. When most people hear the phrase gun violence, they automatically think of gangs, bank robberies, and thugs shooting at each other. Not all gun violence is gang violence. But there's another side of gun violence that rarely gets the attention that it deserves. In fact, according to an RCMP study, 80% of all gun deaths in Canada are as a result of suicide. Let that sink in for a moment. For the year that it was measured in Canada, of the 1,125 firearm deaths, about 80.1% or 911 were classified as suicides. There were 145 homicides, representing 12.4%, 49 unintentional deaths for 4.3% of the total. These percentages have remained relatively stable over the decade they were measured. Much of the research on fatal firearm injuries is concerned with the possible link between the number of firearms available and the rate of violent crime, suicide, and accidental deaths in a given population. This research is based on opportunity theory, which assumes that the more firearms available in a society, the more injuries will occur. It's a theory that I believe accurately reflects why we see a rise in gun-related deaths in Canada. So the purpose of an official gun amnesty is twofold. One, allow people with unwanted firearms to surrender them to police without fear or risk of being charged under the criminal code. And two, reduce the number of firearms sitting in homes on our streets in Durham. Currently, the federal government has an amnesty in place for a specific set of firearms. Let me quote from the Public Safety Canada website. Criminal Code amnesty period is currently in effect to October 30th, 2025. The amnesty is designed to protect individuals or businesses who, at the time the prohibition came into force, were in lawful possession of a newly prohibited firearm from criminal liability while they take the steps to comply with the law. A DRPS declared amnesty would be all-encompassing, not just the changes. It would allow residents to surrender their firearms without fear of prosecution. I spoke to the chief, who told me that he would not charge anyone who surrendered a firearm. I was glad to hear this. However, I'm not speaking for him.
Sorry. Mayor Collier?
Just point of order, Chair. You can't speak for the chief. The chief's not here.
I didn't. Do you want to rephrase it?
No, just continue.
Okay. He told me that he would not charge anyone that surrendered a firearm. I was glad to hear that. But the fact remains, no lawyer worth their salt would recommend a client surrender a firearm unless a general amnesty was officially declared. The benefit of having an official declaration is that residents will have the legal protection they need. Most local general amnesties last briefly to create a sense of urgency. The DRPS communication team would market the amnesty through all of their channels, and the public would know that they have until date X to surrender their guns and ammo. Now, I'd like to talk about the elephant in the room. A gun amnesty is not, and I repeat, a gun amnesty is not a mandatory surrender of legally owned firearms. A gun amnesty is not, I repeat, a gun amnesty is not a plan to badmouth legal gun owners. And a gun amnesty is not, I repeat, a gun amnesty is not likely going to get a mafia kingpin, a drug cartel member, or any kind of gangbanger to hand in their tools of their trade. However, it will reduce the number of unwanted guns sitting in closets, drawers, and under beds that are susceptible to theft, accidental shootings, and being used in suicides. I believe more guns in our community leads to more gun violence. Every year in Canada, there are at least 2,100 burglaries and thefts where at least one firearm is stolen from honest, lawful gun owners. My motion is a simple request. Fewer guns give greater safety, and our residents deserve to have us do everything we can to keep them safe. I'm asking for a recorded vote, and I'm asking for a unanimous vote. I shared some information. I got some questions from other members of council. All of you have a copy of that in front of you, just answering some general questions about gun amnesty, references to the RCMP study, and the last time that DRPS had a amnesty in 2019. So I'm hoping we can address all those questions. It is, again, just an ask. It is up to the DRPS, but I think it is a good one, so that we need to be looking at our community to keep it as safe as possible. And residents that I have spoken to aren't aware that they can currently hand in a gun to the police, which is what instigated this entire process in the first place. It's important that we have a gun amnesty. It's been 6 years. Communicate it with that education to the residents that this is an opportunity for them to surrender it. Because right now, if you don't have a license and you have a firearm that you've inherited or something's in the house and you want to get rid of it, it's not an easy thing to do. Technically, you can be charged. So a gun amnesty gets around that. It's highlighted in the act that it's possible, and I'm looking for council support. Thank you.
Mayor Collier?
Thank you, Chair. And I'm just going to speak to a couple of things here. First, a few of the whereases speak about increase in shooting incidents and gun violence where we're talking about an amnesty. I mean, a little bit disingenuous. They're not related. We're talking about turning in firearms in the amnesty, but mainly, we already do this. This is not new. This is not something that's going to make any difference in 1 month. DRPS already has firearms turned in, and for us to be requesting DRPS, first of all, they have to check and see if the firearm has ever been used in a crime, and are we really asking the police to give amnesty to anybody turning in a gun that may have been used in a crime and not follow up on that? No, we can't do that. So just to give you some stats from an intelligence report that I have here from December 4th, 2024, so 2 months old. This is regards to the firearm seizures for 2023 and 2024, and on November 30th, this was put forward by the chief. So basically, 136 firearms were turned in last year by December 3rd, 2024. 54 non-restricted, 61 restricted, 11 other. Basically, restricted, non-restricted just means a pistol or a long gun rifle. It talks about how many were taken crime guns. There were 11 taken from legally registered firearms owners. Speaking to the possible, and as a legal registered firearms owner, if somebody breaks into my house, they're not getting mine, they're locked in the safe, which is where they should be. So I would suggest that those legal registered firearms owners shouldn't have them or a license regardless if they're subject to theft because they're not following the rules as set out by the chief firearms official. But long story short, this is already being done. It sounds like basically all we need is to do a little bit more education, which I'm absolutely willing to go back to the board and suggest that we do. Maybe let people know that they can turn in firearms if they have inherited them or whichever else, as was said by the mover. But I don't believe a motion like this will have any difference on what we're doing already. I'm not going to support the motion, but I will go back and speak to a more public information type thing that we can do as a service to raise awareness to the option of people turning in firearms should they not wish to possess them anymore. Guaranteed, and this report speaks to, not one single criminal turned in a firearm in the last 2 years. And I think that would continue to be the case. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wu?
Yeah, and through the chair, and just something that the mover had stated about amnesty. And just to be clear, amnesty is not immunity. And as Chair Collier, well, Councillor Collier did say, Mayor Collier, all guns are test fired and compared against unsolved gun crimes. If a match happens, those people who turn in the gun will be investigated and could be charged. So amnesty does not mean immunity. I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. I have an amendment that I've sent to the clerk, if we could put it up onto the screen. I also doubt the efficacy, this is seconded by Councillor Marambietri. I share the doubts of Mayor Collier regarding the efficacy of this program, but I'm willing to be proven wrong. So the request is that the Chief of Police of DRPS be requested to report back to Council at their next quarterly update to Council on the total number of firearms seized to gauge the actual effectiveness of the program. Not much comment beyond, I'm fairly certain most criminals would not hand in their gun or whatnot, but again, happy to be proven wrong. So let us see if Council does insist on going with this, let us see the efficacy of this program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford?
I don't want to talk to that. I want to talk to something else.
You want to, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't want to speak to the amendment.
You want to speak to the main motion?
I actually have another amendment, so I'll wait until whatever.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to have the entire thing referred back to the police board, police service board for review of this motion and the amendment if you want, but the motion and report back to council.
Okay, seconded by Mayor Foster. So now we're speaking on the referral of the main motion and the amendment to the Police Services Board and the chief. Okay, I would like to clarify something, Councillor Leahy. There are already laws in place that do not allow guns to lie around homes. That guns have to be locked up and with the proper trigger device. I don't have guns in my home, but I do know the rules. And I do know that if you're a handgun target shooter, that you have to inform the RCMP before you move that gun to a range. So there are rules, existing rules, and I'll support the referral. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm leaving the picture out because I don't want to be knocked off again. I have the only comment I want to make, and it was said earlier in the meeting, and I think it applies to all these amendments. A program may fail, but a program not attempted will certainly fail. And I think that's the point we have to keep in mind. Are there good laws? Yes. Are our police departments providing good service? Are they providing education? Yes. But who is harmed by doing a little bit more?
Excuse me. Push your button, please, Councillor.
Board, isn't there a referral motion on the table? Like, isn't that what we're talking about?
You can speak to a referral.
But is he? Okay. Yeah, I thought it sounded like the main motion.
Yeah, no, we're speaking to the referral right now. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you. What I'm looking for is, again, similar to we had the other motion. You know, we have to be seen as being decisive. We have to be seen as willing to state that we're willing to try opportunities to make things better. It seems far too often at this council, any new initiative that's brought forward, any new idea that's brought forward is subject to referral. And with all due respect to staff, because they are great contributors to our process, sometimes decisions can be made without the staff's permission. Sometimes we as councillors, as elected officials, can state our opinion and propose what we believe should be done.
Yeah.
Obviously, staff will implement our policy decisions. Let all of us keep in mind, it is the 29 members of this council who set the policy, not the staff. And with respect, staff will do a wonderful job implementing whatever policy we accept. Thank you.
So just Councillor Nicholson, our staff haven't contributed to this motion in any way. So I hope that provides some clarity.
I was referring to the Durham Regional Police staff.
Okay, thank you.
They also are our staff. Thank you.
On that one, we could have a conversation at a later date. Councillor Shahed.
Through you, Chair Henry, please call the question. I'm all in support of this referral. Thank you. Recorded vote, call the question.
Wait a second, hold it. Calling the question needs a seconder. So do we have a seconder? Councillor Chow. So first of all, we have to vote on calling the question. All those in favor, did you want to record a vote on calling the question? So calling the question, all those in favor? On calling the question? Councillor Leahy, a recorded vote calling the question.
There you go. I'm ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on calling the question on the referral is starting now.
Okay, so that carries. So now we'll do the vote on the referral. Recorded vote, Councillor Crawford on the referral. Is that, yep, got it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on referring the main motion and the amendment to the DRPSB is starting now.
Oh, that carries. Members of council, we're moving on to 10.3. 10.3 is the pre-budget approval for operating costs confirmed with the federal investment in capital for 1635 Dundas. Moved by Mayor Carter, seconded by, can we do it the other way? Moved by Mayor Roy, seconded by Mayor Carter. Okay, Councillor Leahy.
Oh, that was to speak on the last piece
Okay,
that
thank
the
you.
motion was to refer it.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. So my only kind of comment / question is the full allotment of the money towards one project. I understand the importance of 1635. You know, I understand the potential and what it will hopefully do to address the unhoused situation within Durham Region, but we also have pressing needs and costs in Oshawa and Ajax as well. So I was wondering if staff could comment on how the decision was made to fully allocate the full amount strictly to Whitby.
Well, I believe the full amount was done through application process, but I'll go to our CAO.
We have a pending application with CMHC to fund the capital component of Phase 2 of the 1635 property. In order for that request to move forward, the CMHC has requested that we have notice from council, the willingness to pay operating costs, which will come from a variety of sources, as you see in the report. So this is essentially just to close the loop so that our application for capital for 1635 moves forward. We've also developed frequent building status with CMHC and are working on many other projects which they have earmarked funding for that we are able to apply for as the projects move forward, and that includes Ritson Road and the various revitalization of various social housing projects in the region. So this is only one project, but we do need this direction from council so that the application for 1635 can move forward. You'll be hearing more in the March meeting about the overall housing projects and how they are moving forward. And in fact, Ritson Road will be going out for expressions of interest in the marketplace in the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you. So seeing, Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. Am I hearing correctly that if we don't approve this, this could have detrimental impacts on getting our approvals for funding for all the other projects just mentioned?
No, we're simply dealing with our application related to 1635 at this time. For the application to move forward, the federal government would like assurances that the operating costs of the facility when it's completed are in place.
All right, thank you.
Seeing no other hands on recorded vote on item 10.3, called by Mayor Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Recorded vote on the item is starting now.
Okay, that carries. There are no notices of motion. There is no unfinished business. Announcements. Mayor Foster.
So, Mr. Chair, I suggested this earlier. It's not an announcement per se, but I understand we have some extra pink ties, you know, which anti-bullying, being kind to people around, and I was just wondering, should we be sending one to Donald Trump?
Feel free with your municipal address on it. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just the coldest night of the year walk was last Saturday night. It wasn't the coldest night of the year, but it was darn cold, that's for sure. And I'd just like to thank you, Mayor Carter, and Councillor Wu, and Mayor Barton, who maybe he's recovering because he did the walk, so I'm not sure where he is. But I ended up with $3,500 of my $3,000 gold. But more importantly, the refuge ended up with 180,000 plus of their 150,000 gold. It was one of the biggest turnouts that I've seen. And for the four of you that showed up to keep me company while I did the walk, I much appreciate it. And to the other members of council that did donate to the cause, either to my team in general or to me personally. I want to thank them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. To begin with, there's a few cultural events happening. Either on Friday or Saturday is the beginning of the holy month of Ramadan. So just wishing on behalf of all of Durham Region, those practicing, an auspicious Ramadan. Also, in the middle of the month, Holi is the Holi Festival. It's a festival of light. So best wishes to all celebrating there. And this one's more of a personal congratulations. So the King Charles Coronation Medal are given to those who have made a significant contribution to Canada. I just want to congratulate, although she's not here, the Durham Region's own Alison Hector Alexander for winning one in Ajax for her contributions towards diversity. She's done a great job, and it's nice that it was reflected in Ajax. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Crawford?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that Ajax had its very own first coldest night of the year walk. We had 122 residents join us in that walk, and the goal was to raise 20,000. And at last look, it was over 28,000 that we raised that evening. So I'm very proud of the organization. I'm very proud of those who donated. I'm very proud of those people who walked for our unsheltered. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leahy?
Thank you, Chair Henry. I really just want to take on my personal thanks to Durham Regional staff. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I don't know if you guys saw on media that a deer got trapped at the water treatment plant there in Pickering, and staff brought in the wildlife reserve community and a bunch of people to bring in to make sure that that deer that was trapped in basically the sewage treatment pond, to get it out safely. And it was quite fascinating to see all the people that came in involved to try and save that animal, and a great testament to staff working with the community manager to say that. So I thought that was a really nice gesture and got lots of great media attention. Just want to thank all public works staff at the Durham region for doing that great job that they do every day. And it was noted across the GTA. Thank you.
We have no bylaws, right? Mayor Ash?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I urge everyone to vote tomorrow. I took the time to vote yesterday and at the returning office, and I only had to go as far down on the list as B. Not to suggest who I voted for, but although if Anderson was on the ballot, I might have not had to make to the B. So with that, the confirming bylaw, Mr. Chair, it's moved by myself and second by Councillor Lee that the bylaw number 2025-010, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Regional Municipality at their meeting held on 26th day of February 2025, be passed.
Okay. On the confirming bylaw, all those in favor? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. The business of the day, Mr. Clerk. Mayor Watton, adjournment? Seconded by Councillor Shahid. Members of council, all those in favor of adjournment? In opposition? Seeing none, that carries. We are adjourned. Thank you to members of council and staff.